blah, 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 blah. 100. Good morning, Minneapolis. Welcome to Tuesday, November 17th. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Toussaint Morrison. I'll be your host today with Onsite Public Media's Good Morning Minneapolis. We don't have obvious news today, but we do have a joke of the day. Mayor Jacob Frey is thinking about running for re-election. Thank you. Boy, you better stop. Okay, our headline article for the day comes by way of the Star Tribune. Last week, the Star Tribune wrote an article titled Gun-Dealing Violence Plague Area Near Site of Floyd's Death, written by Libor Janney. First mistake, they said death and not murder. It's murder. It was murder. We all saw that tape. Now, if you've read the article or just seen the headline, you probably think the story would have been better suited with the cover like this instead of this. Libor's article was nothing short of a hit piece, writing, "Question surfaced. Where are the guns coming from? How did they end up in the hands of gang members who cruised the neighborhood after dark?" So, if this is the one thing that you took away from visiting the site where a black man experienced a modern-day lynching publicly at the hands of the MPD, then what were you looking for when you got there? You know what? I'm just going to go ahead and do Libor's job for them with my best impersonating voice of J. Coles from KSTP. Here we go. Lights. The questions never really surfaced. Everybody knew who the gang was, and they knew where the guns were coming from and why they were cruising the streets at dark. It was the MPD, and they had a quota to make, and they had just gotten the go-ahead from the boy mayor, Jacob Frey. Officers had come in from as far as Lakeville, Stillwater, even Hugo. It was a while since they'd had a good rough-up, and this traumatized community was ripe for the picking. Plus, they figured the Star Tribune would write up an article to justify the brutality they were about to rain upon the entire block. And just like clockwork, the Star Tribune did. This type of writing is so dangerous for people of color, especially for men of color, especially for black men. Why? Because it develops this whole energy of white fear-mongering and criminalizing and dehumanizing of these black male bodies of color, and just communities of color, to the point that it justifies the police brutality that comes in. Janney really should have known better before writing a hit piece like this. Janney continues. Authorities were first tipped off to so-and-so's alleged scheme on July 9th when a business owner near 38th in Chicago reported that a man had walked into his store looking to sell a box of 40 to 50 firearms, according to an affidavit for a search warrant. Okay, why isn't this the piece? Store owner on 38th in Chicago says, the hell are you doing with 40 to 50 guns in my business? Get that out of here. Also, let's just break this down for a second. I'm no gun expert, but 40 to 50 firearms in a box? That sounds a little bit cartoonish. How do you fit 40 to 50 firearms in a box? Did he have shipping materials? Did he have a truck? Did he get these guns from Costco on special? How do you carry this many guns? You can't even fit that into a sedan. And then you pull up to a store on 38th in Chicago. Hey, I got 40 to 50 guns to sell. You know where I can get rid of these? Said the worst gun dealer of all time ever. Also, we have to talk about the language that Libor is using, near 38th in Chicago. Near 38th in Chicago could mean anywhere in South Minneapolis. I was near 38th in Chicago last night. I was over in Uptown. Define near 38th in Chicago. It seems a lot of writers like to say near 38th in Chicago and attribute whatever happens somewhere far off from 38th in Chicago to 38th in Chicago. Say that 10 times fast. I also admit that I may be mispronouncing Libor Janney's name right now, and that's okay because it seems that Libor Janney has misrepresented an entire community, ethnicity, and movement of people after being traumatized by the events created by the Minneapolis Police Department. Near, potentially, possibly, allegedly. These are all words that can neither confirm nor deny Janney's story, but they can confirm that he is an irresponsible writer. Speaking of lying, the Minneapolis City Council has decided in a narrow vote, 7-6, to fund the police an additional $500,000. Yes, the Minneapolis City Council, who decried that they were going to defund the police earlier this year after the MPD murdered George Floyd, have now decided to give the Minneapolis Police Department an additional $500,000. This comes on the heels of the MPD murdering George Floyd, Thurman Blevins, Terrence Franklin, and many more that have concerned the communities surrounding them. Law enforcement today writes, Minneapolis City Council grants nearly $500,000 to hire cops from other police departments. Oh, before we continue, first off, let's just look at Law Enforcement Today's logo. What the hell is going on there? All right, now look at the cover. All right, we got cop car, black guy, propaganda, probably commissioned by the Star Tribune. All right, this logo is just, it seems like something out of RoboCop. Give it a little bit more of, there we go, now we're RoboCop. Yep, let's travel in time for a second, shall we? Bob Kroll, 90s. Beats up a biracial teen, Bob Kroll 2000s. Excessive force on an elderly couple, Bob Kroll 3000. All of Minnesota, Hugo. So the city council has lied. Oh my goodness, whatever shall we do? Probably vote these people out. And they lied about something really weird too, because the police budget annually is $179 million, which shakes out to $500,000 daily. So why give a police department their daily usage of money when you could put that money into affordable housing or the health department where it could go really a long way? Why? Let's take a look. Thank you, Seward Police Abolition. Take a look. Jacob Fry's proposed budget for 2021 has $9 million going to affordable housing, $24 million to the health department, and $179 million to the police. What does the MPD do with all of that money? I mean, $179 million, that is a lot of money. And to give them $500,000 more, that's like not just not defunding the police, they're like increasing the budget. That's like if your kid gets beat up at school and instead of like going to reprimand the bully, you go and buy the bully ice cream. $179 million, because racism isn't cheap. $179 million. I guess that old adage is true. It takes money to make money, and it takes a lot of money to kettle a peaceful protest on a highway for 6 hours. $179 million. I haven't seen this much failing upwards since our current president. Hey, we failed at our job. Could we get some more money? I guess crime pays. And speaking of failing upwards, the Minneapolis Board of Education has decided to push on with the CDD regardless of what the community has said. Yes, we hate to break this to the parents of white students in Minneapolis, but your kids are surfing on one of the nation's highest waves of racial disparity in education. Yes, we have it here in Minnesota. And to subside that wave, or just to take no accountability for it, the Minneapolis Board of Education has given us the CDD. Well, I don't really have all the wherewithal to speak to the CDD, so we brought in Michael Duenas, who is somewhat of an expert on it, to speak to us about it. So, Michael, I want to ask you really quickly, over a week ago, 27 community calls were made to the Board of Education, some of them from immigrant families, asking for the board to stop the push through of the CDD. Why do you think this is?
Good morning, Toussaint. So a week ago, we had 28 families call the Board of Education. 27 of those families wanted the CDD to be delayed. Why? Right on the other side of this park was one of the homeless encampments across the city. It's no longer there. A big reason why so many immigrant families and families called the Board of Education to delay the push through of the CDD was we don't know what's going to happen with our jobs. We don't know how our communities are going to be affected or displaced. And we want time to try to figure out, where are we going to live? Where are we going to work? Where will our children be able to go to school? And the CDD uproots all of that by forcing everyone to go to new schools.
Okay, Michael, Bob Walzer has proposed to delay the CDD and has seemed to be supported by the community. Who is Bob Walzer, and what do you think of him trying to delay the CDD?
Bob Walzer is a board member of the Minneapolis Public School Board. He's been listening to people, going out into the community, taking our phone calls, getting our emails, listening to our educators, who all said we're very concerned about the CDD. He put through a proposal to wait on implementing the CDD because right back here, Seward Middle School, it's a K through 8. They just spent millions of dollars, tens of millions of dollars renovating the top floor for middle school. That's going to have to be converted now to an elementary school with the CDD. But what also is happening is there's only one gym for this whole school. According to our school policies, we have to have 2 gyms to handle all the elementary school students who are going to now be in this building. But there isn't much room to build a completely new gym, nor the hundreds of millions of dollars that's going to take. That's one of the reasons why we need to delay the CDD.
Okay, so lastly, Michael, as some people are maybe asking this right now as they're watching it, what the bleep is the CDD and what will it do if it continues on?
Most people in Minneapolis have no idea what the CDD does and how much it costs to implement. The CDD is going to cost over $500 million to implement, and it reorganizes the entire school district. It's going to force students and families to go to different schools, all in the effort to address the opportunity gap. And we have huge deficits in the opportunity gap. But what the CDD does is it forces those students and families who come from BIPOC, student of color communities in North and South Central Minneapolis, and families from lower income households to send their students to new schools. And I'll show you, as you see here in the graphic, those are the students that are going to have to move. But finally, one of the other things is, this policy is not grounded in any sort of research in this country. It's completely new. Instead of spending hundreds of millions of dollars on policies and procedures that we know work to address the opportunity gap and that work to improve student performance, our school district and the board has bet over $500 million of our money on this untried policy. One other thing, we were sold a CDD that it would save money on our transportation costs in the school district. But what just happened at last week's board meeting, they finally admitted that they're going to have to hire more drivers and more buses to ship students across the district. That is going to eliminate any of the transportation savings. So much for listening to the experts on the school board and in the school district.
And that wraps up today's episode of Good Morning Minneapolis. As you can see behind me, it's dark. We are trying so darn hard to get these things out to you. It's tough because there are 3 cameras and there's just a lot of information we're trying to pull through. We're actually going to make back-to-back, so you'll see this today, Tuesday, November 17th, and you'll also see one on Wednesday, November 18th. We have on-site public media mugs coming in, 25 of them. And it's going to be the only 25 that we may ever release. So get ready to gift those to people. We also have some screen prints coming in, and we're going to be giving those out as well. Thank you so much for tuning in. Also keep an eye on certain events coming up today. We'll put some links to them below. Thursday, 4:30 p.m. outside of Cadillac Pond is the $500,000 march, which will be taking place in response to, you guessed it, the $500,000 going to the police and not to health or affordable housing. Also, Saturday, November 28th, 2 p.m. at George Floyd Square, we are going to be holding a celebration called Decolonize Day. On Thursday, folks usually celebrate the massacre and attempted genocide of a peoples here that were indigenous to this country. The day after, they celebrate extreme capitalism. And the day after that, hey, decolonize it all. We're going to celebrate community, coming together, and feeding as many people as we possibly can. It's going to be primarily soul food, so get ready. And we're going to be feeding people at the square. There might even be a few chairs there for folks from the Star Tribune. We'll see if they let you in. All right, thanks so much for tuning in. We'll be in touch. Love y'all. See you in the next one.